Hi, I'm Diane McGinnis. Welcome to Families Future Present. Today, I'll be speaking with Rollie Thompson, Professor Emeritus at the Schulich School of Law at Dalhousie University in Halifax. Among his many areas of interest, including child protection, family justice, poverty law, Professor Thompson, along with Carol Rogerson, was instrumental in developing the Spousal Support Advisory Guidelines. And it's with regard to spousal support that I'd like to speak with him today. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Sure.
We're talking about spousal support today, and a lot of my clients are saying, well, I'm happy to pay child support, not so comfortable with spousal support. So I'm just wondering if you could talk to us a little bit about the purposes of spousal support and what we would consider when we're talking about spousal support.
Okay, well, there's two main purposes of spousal support. One of them is to compensate the recipient spouse for economic disadvantages they suffer by reason of the roles they played during the marriage or the relationship. That's the compensation claim, if I can call it that. The other one is needs-based, and it's to reflect the fact that when a couple separates, they've been living at a certain standard of living, and then when they separate, they each have to rely on their own incomes. And the lower income person will often have to receive some support from the other spouse for a transition to living on their own income. Sometimes that transition will be short, sometimes it'll be long, depending on the facts of the case. And the other thing is that most people who get spousal support are middle to upper income earners. So probably no more than 20% of spouses will ever receive an amount of spousal support or pay it.
So we talk a little bit about those threshold issues of when there's a compensatory claim for support or a needs-based. So what would be some of the factors when we're looking at first, the first branch, the compensatory?
Okay, so this is whether you're able to receive any support or whether the other spouse is liable to pay any support, the higher income person. It's not just enough to have a difference in income at the end of the marriage or the relationship. It's also why there's a difference in income between the two spouses. So the compensatory example, the most common example of how you suffer disadvantage, where you've foregone a career or missed an opportunity, would be if you stay home full-time or part-time with children. That's certainly the most common way you disadvantage your career in the paid labor market during your time together. Or it might be the situation where you move to accommodate your spouse's career, because when you're together, you go, one spouse can get a better job, a better promotion, so the other spouse gives up their job to move. Sometimes you have the situation where one spouse puts the other one through school, and then they split up not long after that. Well, again, you suffered a disadvantage in favor of the marriage as a whole, and at the end of the marriage then, or the relationship, then the spousal support will get paid in those cases. So those are some examples of where someone's disadvantaged themselves because of the role they adopted while they were together. Because when you're together, you're working for the greater good of both of you. So you make decisions that's best for the two of you. Once you separate, the decisions you're making decisions on your own.
And so then when we talk about kind of that needs-based or transitional, they might not have to prove that economic disadvantage or that sacrifice that they've made to promote the other partner, for example.
Correct. So for example, you may have need, like little or no income, for example, you may have need because you're disabled or ill, right? And you may then claim spousal support on what we call needs-based or non-compensatory support. That's a classic example. But basically, at the end of a relationship of any length, there will be some amount of spousal support paid for some period of time if their incomes are significantly different. Now, if it's a short marriage, let's say you're together 5 years, it will be a very short period of spousal support, and it will be over with quickly. Mm-hmm. If you're together 20 years, even if you don't have children, if you're together 20 years, there's a much stronger claim to needs-based support at the end of the relationship.
So that kind of wraps up some of the big picture questions for spousal support. And I always just try to remind clients that it is kind of an income flow. It's something that helps both parties transition and get through to the other side of spousal support. So something that we shouldn't necessarily look at as a terrible thing, but as an obligation that you have when you have a long-term relationship with someone, or, you know, depending on your circumstances.